Over the years, I've had a lot of patients come into my office struggling with a loss of overhead motion, either from a previous injury, a fall, or sometimes they weren't really sure what happened. They just started noticing the shoulder was getting tight with functional activities like reaching for a glass or putting luggage in an overhead bin. In this video, I'm going to share with you the active exercise that can restore this overhead motion for you and get rid of the pain associated with it. This is the overhead shoulder flexion stretch. I'm going to review the precision and accuracy you want to use during the stretch, what not to do so you can avoid further aggravating any shoulder issues, and then finally, I'll go over the parameters so you can get the most out of the stretch. Hope you enjoy it. Welcome back, friends. Michael O'Connor here, Doctor of Physical Therapy. Losing any motion in the body can be quite concerning and even scary. When I worked with patients that lost overhead motion, I would usually see one of two things. Some individuals would stop the overhead motion altogether, just rest the shoulder and hope it would get better over time. This often made the shoulder tighter as time went on. Others would tend to get aggressive and try hanging from a door frame or trying to do pull-ups or something aggressive that could obviously make the shoulder worse. I want to help you avoid both extremes. So let's take a look at the details of the shoulder flexion stretch. One of the first things you want to do is make sure you're properly lined up. So your shoulder should be right in front of the door frame. The first step is to get the hands on the door frame and stagger your feet. If I'm stretching my right shoulder, my left foot will be in front, my right foot behind. We call this maneuver here wall walking, where we're just kind of taking the fingers up the wall. You'll notice I use my left hand to assist and elevate my right shoulder, my right arm up the wall a little bit. That's particularly helpful if you have a sore shoulder or if you're recovering or just have a very stiff shoulder. Once we get a little bit higher, you'll notice I did this maneuver here I call the hitchhiking position. There is a ledge of bone right on the outside of your shoulder, and sometimes it pinches or impinges on another piece of bone in your shoulder. When you bring the thumb back, you tend to rotate those bones away from each other. So you don't have to do this with every stretch, but most people find that it's helpful to do the hitchhiking position, particularly at the top of the stretch. You'll notice I'm taking baby steps toward the wall to make sure my feet and my legs are weight bearing. I do not put pressure on my shoulder during this stretch. My legs are in total control of my weight distribution. And you'll also notice just toward the end of the stretch, when I just needed a bit more, my right heel comes off the ground. That is the final step that I take just to get the end of the stretch felt. We typically want to ask ourselves two questions at this point. What do you feel? What are you supposed to feel? This stretch should give you a light stretch underneath the shoulder and the armpit region. And sometimes you'll feel a little bit on the top of the shoulder as well. Maintain your breathing, maintain your neutral spine position. You want to make sure your spine is lined up well. And then lower the hand down with control. You'll see I use my left hand to control the descent. I did not just drop the arm down. Take baby steps back, a couple shoulder rolls, shake it out a little bit, and there you have it. A posterior view, or a view from behind of the stretch. You'll notice my shoulders right in front of the door frame. I'm wall walking up, staggered foot position. I just did the hitchhiking thumb back maneuver, and I'm slowly easing my arm up, legs in full control. As far as stretching parameters, if you're recovering from something, an injury or a lot of stiffness, typically we stretch 3 stretches 3 times a day for 30 seconds. I always reminded patients 3-3-30. It's an easy way to remember it. If you already have good motion and you're maintaining that motion, maybe 2 or 3 stretches just 1 time a day or before the activity that you're about to perform. A couple things you definitely want to avoid. You'll notice here my feet are way too far back in this stretch. That puts an incredible amount of pressure on my shoulder joint. That is not a good thing to do. Make sure your feet are closer to the wall and your weight bearing is controlled by your feet. You're not leaning into the shoulder, so don't do that. In the second example here, you'll notice I lost my neutral position. I've got a curve to the right. I'm almost side bend to the right. Maintaining neutral position is super important during this stretch to make sure it's accurate. And then finally, everyone's always telling me, look how high my hand is going. We want to make sure that the quality of the movement is more important than the quantity. Here, you're getting an incredible height of the hand because you're hyperextending your low back. So don't arch backward and just look at how high the hand is getting. So once you're finished those, there's one other tip I want to remind you. And this happens to many patients I've seen. At the top of the stretch, they lift their arm off the wall and then they let it drop. Don't let your arm drop. Stretching can make your shoulder tired. It can feel like it needs a little more recovery time. So control the descent down the wall. Super important. I hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like the video, and share it with your friends. I know it can help them. And check out my website in the link below for some additional content that you'll only find there. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.